बहुत सोचा यहाँ से निकलने के बाद मुझे क्या करना है, लेकिन कोई वजह नजर नहीं है। जिसके पास वजह हो उसे जीतना चाहिए।
साबु, साबु कहाँ है? मैंने सबको सिखाया। साबु, कहाँ है वो?
Should purchase.
चलते चलिए। ये बताओ, प्लीज एक और राउंड। यही वो घर है। मैं इसी में रहता था, अपनी बीवी और बच्चे के साथ, और मैं भी घर के आगे की एक जो पहला चला कहाँ अगर चलते ही आपका माता भी एक कच्चा बच्चा है और तुम मेरे साथ खेलना होगा। जब मैं गाँव से वापस आता था, मेरा बेटा अपने दोस्तों के साथ बहुत मस्ती करता था। उसे पता भी नहीं चलता कि वो आ गया। होश में आई है, कोई तो कहानी अपने के साथ खेली है। तो मैं खंबे के पीछे जाकर छिप जाया करता था और उसे खिड़की में देखता था। वो बहुत मस्ती करता था, सब बच्चे मस्ती करते थे और प्यारे लगते थे। प्लीज बच्चे संभाल, मैं भीख मांगता हूँ। गाँव पर लगा तो उसे लगा मैं अपने से कुछ गाँव पर लगा, तुम भी अपने से कुछ गाँव पर लगा। अब तक बदल हम दोनों अपना सब कुछ गाँव पर लगा, यही सही है। क्या एक बच्चे के लिए सब कुछ गाँव पे क्या बकवास कर रहे हो?
He called it. But I knew from a young age that I wanted to help people in a different way. I grew up in Oak Hollow, a small town where everyone knew everyone's business. My mom left when I was 8. Dad never talked about it, and I learned not to ask. High school was tough. Being the quiet kid with hand-me-down clothes made me an easy target. But Ms. Winters, my guidance counselor, saw something in me. She was the first person who ever really listened when I talked. The way she helped me through those years made me want to do the same for others. College wasn't easy. I worked nights at a gas station to pay what my scholarships didn't cover. Barely slept, barely ate anything that didn't come from a vending machine. But I made it through. Then came the job hunt. Turns out psychology degrees are a dime a dozen these days. 4 months of rejected applications later, I was back at my childhood home, sleeping in my old bedroom with the same faded posters on the walls. Dad tried not to say, I told you so, but his eyes said it every morning over breakfast. That's when I saw the posting for the Dusk Line Support Center. They needed overnight phone operators at their suicide prevention hotline. The pay wasn't great, but it was something. A step toward what I actually wanted to do. Plus, who else was going to hire someone with zero real-world experience?
पता नहीं
The
lag
building
क्यों
was
हो रहा
old, tucked away downtown between a closed-down laundromat and a pawn shop. The interview was brief. The director, Dr. Amelia Voss, barely looked at my resume. She just asked if I could handle night shifts and difficult conversations. I said yes to both. There are rules, she told me. Very specific rules. Follow them exactly. I nodded, thinking they'd be the usual confidentiality agreements, reporting protocols, standard stuff. I was wrong. When she handed me the rule sheet, I almost laughed. It seemed like a joke, the kind of thing you'd find on some internet horror forum. But Dr. Voss wasn't smiling. Every rule exists for a reason, she said. Break them at your own risk. I needed the job. I signed the contract. That was 3 weeks ago. Tonight is my first shift alone. The night shift at Duskline Support Center starts at 11 p.m. I arrived at 10:30, giving myself time to settle in before taking over from Jade, the evening operator. The center occupied the 3rd floor of the building, accessible only by a narrow staircase that creaked with each step. The elevator had an out-of-order sign that looked like it had been there for years. "Hey, new guy," Jade said when I walked in. She was mid-40s with curly red hair pulled into a messy bun. Her desk was covered in little trinkets, worry stones, fidget toys, a tiny cactus. Quiet night so far, only 3 calls. I hung my jacket on the coat rack and set my coffee on my desk. Good. Give me time to get comfortable. Jade snorted. Don't get too comfortable. The weird ones always come after midnight. She gathered her things and headed for the door. Remember the rules. Yeah, I've got them memorized. She paused at the doorway. I'm serious, Marcus. The rules matter. After she left, I pulled out the laminated card Dr. Voss had given me and read through the rules again. 1. Answer all calls within 3 rings. 2. Always state, Duskline Support Center, how can I help you tonight? 3. Never give your full name, first name only. 4. If a caller asks what time it is, check your personal watch, not the office clock. 5. If a caller says they're calling from Aspen Road, transfer immediately to extension 5. 6. If a caller only breathes and says nothing for 30 seconds, hang up. 7. If you smell lilacs during a call, end the conversation as quickly as possible. 8. Never answer a call that comes in at exactly 3:33 a.m. The rules seemed odd, but Dr. Voss insisted they were part of their proven methodology. I figured every place had its quirks. The overnight shift paid an extra $2 an hour, so who was I to question it? The office itself was small. 2 desks with phones, a tiny break room with a mini fridge and microwave, and a bathroom. No windows. The walls were pale blue, probably meant to be calming, but the fluorescent lights gave everything a sickly hue. My first call came in at 11:45 p.m. Duskline Support Center, how can I help you tonight? I don't know if I should be calling. A young woman's voice, shaky. That's okay. You already took the hardest step by calling. What's going on tonight? She told me about her boyfriend who'd left her job that was slowly crushing her spirit, the pills she'd been saving. Classic cry for help. I went through the usual steps, getting her to talk, identifying her supports, creating a safety plan. By the end of the call, she agreed to flush the pills and call her sister to come stay with her. A textbook case of what I was trained to handle. The next 2 hours passed with routine calls. A teenager fighting with his parents. An elderly man who couldn't sleep. A college student stressed about finals. Nothing I couldn't handle. At 2:17 a.m., things got weird. The phone rang, and I answered with the script. Duskline Support Center, how can I help you tonight? Silence, then heavy breathing. Hello? Are you there? More breathing. Remembering Rule 6, I started to count. At 28 seconds, just before I was about to hang up, a voice came through. What time is it there? The voice was deep, raspy. I glanced at the large wall clock, which read 2:18 a.m., but Rule 4 flashed in my mind. I checked my watch instead. 2:13 a.m. Strange, a 5-minute difference. It's 2:13 a.m., I answered, glad I'd followed the rule. A long pause followed. Good boy, you checked your watch. The voice changed, became smoother, almost pleased. Can I tell you a secret, Marcus? My blood turned to ice water. I hadn't given my name. I'm calling from Aspen Road. Do you know what that means? Rule 5, transfer to extension 5. My fingers fumbled with the buttons. Wait, the voice said. Don't you want to know what happens to the ones who don't follow the rules? I hit the transfer button. The line clicked, then went dead. My hands were trembling as I wrote up the call log. How did they know my name? And why was the clock wrong? At 2:45 a.m., Dr. Voss called to check in. I mentioned the strange call and the time discrepancy between the wall clock and my watch. Never trust the office clock, she said flatly. Time works differently in that building at night. What does that even mean? I asked. It means you followed the rules, and that's good. Always follow the rules. She hung up before I could ask more questions. By 3 a.m., I was jumpy. Every creak of the old building made me look up from my desk. I decided to make a fresh pot of coffee in the break room. As the coffee brewed, I heard a faint tapping sound. Tap, 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 like fingernails on glass. But there were no windows. I followed the sound to the bathroom door, which was slightly ajar. The smart thing would have been to ignore it, but curiosity got the better of me. The bathroom was tiny. Just a toilet, sink, and mirror. Nobody there. The tapping had stopped. I washed my hands and face, trying to shake off the unease that had settled over me. In the mirror, my reflection looked tired, dark circles under my eyes, pale skin under the harsh bathroom light. As I reached for a paper towel, I noticed a small piece of paper tucked into the corner of the mirror frame. It was a handwritten note. 3:33 is when the phone line connects to somewhere else. Don't answer. B. Back at my desk, I tried to distract myself with paperwork. Who was B? Another operator? A former employee? The phone rang at 3:15 a.m., a woman sobbing about her son who had disappeared 3 days ago. I talked her through some coping strategies, gave her resources for families of missing persons. Standard protocol. 3:28 a.m., a young man, drunk, contemplating jumping off a bridge. I kept him talking until he agreed to call a cab home. 3:32 a.m. I watched the clock with growing dread. The red digits changed to 3:33, and right on cue, the phone rang. 1 ring, 2 rings, 3 rings. Rule 8. Never answer a call that comes in at exactly 3:33 a.m. 4 rings, 5 rings. The ringing stopped. The silence that followed felt heavier than the sound. Then the phone rang again immediately. I checked the time. 3:34 a.m. Safe to answer. Duskline Support Center, how can I help you tonight? Hello? A small voice. A child. Is this the helpline? There was no protocol against taking calls from minors, but something felt off. Yes, this is a helpline. How old are you? 8. My mom told me to call this number if I ever felt scared. Are you scared right now? Yes. The child's voice dropped to a whisper. There's someone in our house. My training kicked in. Are you somewhere safe right now? Hidden? I'm in my closet. The whisper grew even quieter. They're looking for me. Is there an adult with you? Can you call 911? Mom's not moving anymore, and they cut the phone line. I'm using Mom's cell phone. I pulled up the emergency protocol on my computer. What's your address? I can send help. The child gave an address across town. I used my personal cell to call 911 while keeping the other line open. Stay quiet, okay? Help is coming, I assured the child after dispatching emergency services. Can you tell me your name? Lily, the small voice replied. Are you going to stay on the phone with me? Of course, I'll stay right here until help arrives. Thank you, Marcus. My heart stopped. I hadn't given my name, just like the earlier caller. How do you know my name? A giggle came through the line. Not a child's laugh, but something else entirely. I know lots of things. I know you're all alone in that old building. I know the clock on your wall is wrong again. And I know you shouldn't have answered at 3:33. I looked up at the wall clock. It still read 3:34 a.m., but my watch said 3:33 a.m. exactly. I'd answered a 3:33 call. That's not possible, I whispered. Rules exist for a reason, the voice said, no longer childlike, but deep and hollow. But now that we're connected, maybe you'd like to play a game. I hung up. My hands shook so badly I knocked my coffee cup over, spilling it across my desk. As I scrambled to clean up the mess, the scent of lilacs filled the air. Rule 7. If you smell lilacs during a call, end the conversation as quickly as possible. But I'd already ended the call. So why did I smell lilacs? The phone rang again. I stared at it, frozen. Then I remembered Rule 1. Answer all calls within 3 rings. I picked up the phone. Duskline Support Center, how can I help you tonight? Marcus Hayes. It was Dr. Voss. I need you to listen very carefully. The security system alerted me that you answered a 3:33 call. I'm sorry, No time. You've opened a door that shouldn't be open. They're coming now. Who's coming? Lock yourself in the break room. There's a red button under the microwave. Push it and wait. Whatever happens, whatever you hear, don't come out until morning. Do you understand? Yes. But now, Marcus. She hung up. As I stood, the lights flickered. Once, twice, then went out completely, leaving me in total darkness except for the dim glow of my computer screen. And somewhere beyond my desk, I heard a door creak open. The darkness was complete except for the blue glow of my phone screen. I grabbed it and moved as quietly as I could toward the break room, guided by the weak light. My foot caught on something, and I stumbled, catching myself against the wall with a thud. A voice called out from the main office area. Marcus? Are you hiding from me? It was Lily's voice, but wrong somehow. Too deep beneath the childish tone. I made it to the break room and closed the door as quietly as possible. My trembling fingers found the lock. Then, feeling blindly in the dark, I located the microwave and ran my hand underneath it. There it was, a small button. I pressed it. Nothing happened. No sound, no light, no cavalry rushing in to save me. Just silence. Then I heard a click from inside the walls, like tumblers falling into place. Safe room activated, said a mechanical voice through a small speaker I'd never noticed before. Stand by. The silence that followed was broken by a knock on the break room door. Marcus? Lily's voice again. I want to play. Don't you want to play with me? I didn't answer. Backed away from the door until I hit the far wall, then slid down to sit on the floor. I can't reach the doorknob, the voice whined. Can you open it for me? I kept silent, clutching my phone. I thought about calling for help, but who would believe me? And what would I even say? The doorknob rattled. I know you're in there. I can smell you. The rattling stopped. For a moment, I thought whatever was out there had given up. Then came a new voice from the other side of the door. An old woman's voice, frail and frightened. Please help me. I'm lost. I need to use a phone to call my son. Please. I bit my lip to keep from responding. The voice changed again. This time, it was Jade, the evening shift operator. Marcus, what are you doing in the break room? There's a call holding. It's important. I squeezed my eyes shut. It wasn't Jade. It couldn't be. Marcus. Now it was my father's voice. Open this door right now. The voice cycled through different people, each one pleading, demanding, trying to trick me into opening the door. Each new voice felt like a knife in my chest, but I stayed put. Eventually, the voices stopped. The silence was almost worse. I sat in the dark, afraid to move, afraid to make a sound. My phone showed 4:15 a.m., hours left until morning. I noticed I had a voicemail. It must have come in while I was running to the break room. With shaking fingers, I put the phone to my ear and listened. Hayes, it's Dr. Voss again. If you're hearing this, you made it to the safe room. Good. What's happening isn't your fault. The rules were designed to prevent this, but now that it's started, you need to know what you're dealing with. The Duskline building sits on a site where two realities touch. At certain times, especially 3:33 a.m., the boundary thins. What comes through isn't. From here. They feed on despair and pain. That's why we set up the hotline, to help people before they're vulnerable to these things. But now that you've answered their call, they've latched onto you. They'll try anything to get to you. Don't trust what you see or hear. Stay in that room until daylight. I'm sending help, but they won't arrive until morning. The voicemail ended. I sat in stunned silence, trying to process what I'd just heard. It sounded crazy, but after what I'd just experienced, I was willing to believe. Time crawled by. 4:30 a.m., 5 a.m. Each minute felt like an hour. At 5:43 a.m., the temperature in the room dropped suddenly. My breath came out in white puffs. The metal fixtures grew a thin layer of frost. Then came the smell. Lilacs. I pressed myself further against the wall, as if I could somehow sink through it to safety. A voice whispered directly into my ear, though there was no one beside me. Tick-tock, Marcus. The safe room isn't really safe. Nothing is. We've been here all along. The smell of lilacs grew stronger, filling my lungs, making me dizzy. The walls seemed to pulse, as if breathing. The floor beneath me felt like it was tilting. Stop, I said, my voice cracking. Leave me alone. But we're so hungry, Marcus, and you invited us in. That's what happens when you break the rules. The voice was right at my ear, but also coming from the walls, the ceiling, the floor. Everywhere. I didn't know, I whispered. Ignorance isn't a defense. But we'll make you a deal. Let us in, and we'll leave everyone else alone. Your dad, your friends from college, little Lily from the phone call, the real one who's still alive. We can find them all, unless you give yourself to us instead. I realized with horror that the voice knew about my life, my real life. It had dug into my mind somehow. You're lying, I said. You can't hurt them. We can. We will. Starting with your father. He's asleep right now, dreaming of your mother. Should we join him in that dream? Turn it into a nightmare? Stop it, I shouted. Then let us in, Marcus. Just open the door to your mind. It's easier than fighting. I felt a pressure in my head, like a balloon being slowly inflated inside my skull. A fog crept into the edges of my vision. No, I grunted through gritted teeth. Get out of my head. I remembered my training, the techniques for grounding oneself during a dissociative episode. It wasn't the same thing, but it was all I had. I focused on my breathing. In for 4 counts, hold for 7, out for 8. I named 5 things I could see in the dim light from my phone. 4 things I could touch, 3 things I could hear. 2 things I could smell, ignoring the lilacs. 1 thing I could taste. The pressure in my head lessened slightly. The voice hissed. That won't work for long. But I kept at it. Breathing, naming, focusing. Making myself fully present in my body, in this room. And I began to talk. To myself, to the darkness, to whatever was trying to get in. I help people. That's who I am. That's what I'm meant to do. You feed on pain and fear, but I fight against those things. You can't have me. You can't have anyone I help. That's my purpose, and you can't take it away. With each word, I felt stronger. The smell of lilacs faded. The pressure in my head eased. This isn't over, the voice said, more distant now. There will be another 3:33 a.m., another caller, another opportunity. And there will be people like me to stop you, I replied. Silence followed. The temperature in the room slowly returned to normal. The sense of another presence faded away. I stayed in that position, back against the wall, until my phone showed 7 a.m. The first rays of dawn would be breaking outside, though I couldn't see them from the windowless room. At 7:08 a.m., there was a knock on the break room door. Mr. Hayes, this is security. Dr. Voss sent us. I didn't move. We're here to escort you out safely. The building is secure now. Still, I hesitated. Mr. Hayes, please say something so we know you're okay. How do I know you're really security? I called out. There was a pause. Dr. Voss said to tell you this. Rules exist for a reason, but so does the safe room. It seemed like the kind of verification only the real Dr. Voss would provide. Slowly, I got to my feet. My legs were stiff and sore from sitting so long. I approached the door and put my hand on the knob. Stand back from the door, I said. We're back. I unlocked the door and opened it a crack. 2 uniformed security guards stood there, looking concerned but decidedly human. Are you hurt? One of them asked. I shook my head, just scared and confused. They escorted me through the main office, which looked perfectly normal in the morning light. No sign of whatever had been hunting me overnight. The wall clock now matched my watch exactly. Outside, Dr. Voss was waiting by a black SUV. Get in, she said. We need to talk. I hesitated. I'm not sure I want to be involved with whatever this is anymore. She gave me a sad smile. You already are involved, Marcus. You answered at 3:33. That creates a connection they can follow.
Now only battle royale. आवाज कम कर लो यार थोड़ी सी बहुत तेज है पूरा टाइम लग रहा है मैच होने में Drum gun, dual pistol, jetpack, string bomb. अरे नहीं यार क्या हम नहीं देख रहे? अच्छा उसके चक्कर में बंद करा। हम्म।
आपके दोस्त नहीं आते खेलने?
फाइनली लैग। सारी एप्लीकेशंस बंद करना है। लैग आना नहीं चाहिए, पता नहीं क्यों आ रहा है। यार एक ही तो रह गया है, कहाँ है? भाई कहाँ? फाइनली आने वाला भाई। क्यों ये सो रही है, जग रही है? हैं? जग रही है? You know what? Close encounters. Let's play this. ये भी बढ़िया थोड़ा फन गेम था एक टाइम पे खेलता। क्रू बैग लेने पे मुझे सारे बैटल पास मिल जाएंगे सारे। इतने अच्छे इसके लिए इसके लिए बट बैटल पास भी इतना को इतना खास पसंद नहीं है। Just messed it on. की अगली ये करते। लगता है जी रेनेगेड रेडा तो अच्छी है। mythic abilities. Dislike. Epic doesn't. Dislike. I'm done, boys. Bye bye.